Okay, we are live. Sorry about that. I didn't realize I was muted on Zoom. It's good to see everybody. It is 7:02. We didn't have class for 2 weeks because of Pesach. I'm going to give one shot to seeing if I can log in and post this on the other Facebook page. Otherwise, as we say in Yiddish, Kushan Tachas. If you don't know what that means, Google it.
No idea what that means.
That's what you tell him before he goes to bed? So you do, Six, three, nine, four, four. We got it. We figured it out. So now I'm going to share it on 2 more Facebook pages. I'm doing a lot of technology. If you look in front of me, I look like I'm a very important person. I have 2 laptops and a phone. You would think that I'm broadcasting from the White House. I need a headphone. Yeah, that's what I'm missing. But it's going to be worth your wait. But I just have to share this so more Jews can see it. Copy link. One day someone's going to say, Rabbi, do you need a guy to run all your tech support? The answer is yes. So when that happens, you won't have to have the rabbi doing this all by himself. Till then, you gotta.
We enjoy it.
Yeah. You sit and watch the poor rabbi fighting with technology. People ask me sometimes, so who's your social media guy? I'm like, huh? Come again?
What's that?
How we doing? Nice to meet you.
We can tell Javi didn't edit anything from the client to the
Well, Javi's posts are way more entertaining than mine from that trip. She was watching the poor guy trying to go up the huffing and puffing like a big bad wolf. You've never been up the M? Oh, it's awesome. Okay, we got all that out of the way, and we are ready to go. So we are in Parshas. It's a double Parsha. So this Shabbos in Shul, to the great dismay of the one who has to read from the Torah, it's a double Parsha. And it's not an easy Parsha. There's a lot of he's and who's and who's and he's, and that means Seth and Amram are going to be busy correcting my who's and he's. But it is a Parsha that gets it's underrated. It's not appreciated as much. A lot of technicalities. Has the laws of tzaras, which we'll talk about in a moment. It has the laws of purity and impurity related to childbirth, clothing, tzaras, the divine spiritual leprosy on your clothing, on the walls of your home, and of course on your body. So let's start right at the beginning where it says chapter 13 on page 665. It says the following words. God spoke to Moses and Aaron saying, if a man has on the skin of his body a white blotch, a creamy blotch, or a bright spot, and it forms a suspected lesion of tzaras on the skin of his body, he should be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons, the priest, for examination. So, important law related to tzaras, which we see almost nowhere in Judaism, and that is you can have all the experts of the world, all the great sages, and they could look at the tzaras and, oh my gosh, it's legit, meaning it has all the criteria for being real tzaras. Tzaras was a plague. It was not the medical condition known as leprosy. That's a mistranslation. It's not a medical condition. It's a divine condition that you get plagued for. So even if you have all the great sages looking at it and they're certain that it's tzaras, the actual proclamation of tzaras has to come from a kohen. Because a kohen is a man of peace, a man of harmony. They will do everything in their power not to break the law, but they'll do everything in their power to see if there's room within Jewish law to permit, meaning to not proclaim it impure. And then even when they have to proclaim someone impure, the person will feel like it's coming from a place of love. So it has to be a Kohen. Then the verse says, the priest should examine the lesion on the skin of his body. If at least 2 hairs within the lesion have turned from black to white, and the appearance of the lesion is white, making it look deeper than the surrounding skin of his body. So again, you're doing very technical colors that you really need to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you could totally mess it up. The only other place in Judaism you see that is when it comes to the blood of Nida, which is not the discussion of today's class, nor will it ever be a discussion of the Wednesday night class, because it's beyond it would take me 6 years to give that class instead of 40 minutes. But it's very technical, and you really need to not just study the laws in a book. You need to actually study with the various colors to understand what is creamy white, what is regular white, what is blotched, how does it look different in the body, in the skin. Then it's a genuine tsaras lesion. When the priest examines it, he should pronounce him ritually impure. So the kohen has to pronounce the person ritually impure. And the kohen, sounds like the door, no? Is that someone leaving? Zizi, no, Seth, don't leave. Zizi, just check the window. Oh, so okay. So the kohen could be a wonderful person, but if he doesn't know the laws, it's expected of him to call in an expert and to assess it, and then he does the proclamation. That's all technical stuff, and honestly, most of us, remember the parsha in Genesis where we talk about the various types of lambs and goats that Laban and Jacob were going to split up. The ones that are speckled and striped and speckled and brown and grit. It's like that. There's a lot of technical stuff. But today, in preparation of tonight's class, I found this really incredible talk from the Rebbe that really sheds a whole different light on the tsaras and what causes it. And it explains so much because it's about a topic that most of us struggle with. And yet, in the Rebbe's classical way, he creates such a direct understanding of what's what and how it directly connects to the verse that we just read. So there's a famous question. It's a question that's asked in the Zohar, in the great book of Jewish mysticism, and elsewhere. When the verse speaks about a person getting tsaras, if you look in the Hebrew on page 664, on the first slide, it says, Yud Gimel, Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe el Aaron Lamer. God spoke to Moses and Aaron saying, the first word of chapter 2 in the Hebrew is Adam. Adam. If a man has a lesion, except when you study Torah, and if you study long enough, and if you study enough years and enough books, you know that the term Adam, when referring to a human being, is considered the greatest title for a human being. There's various titles for human beings. There's Adam, there is Ish, there is Enosh, there is Gever. When we use the term Adam, it's intellectual and emotional superiority. A person who's in a great state on all fronts. It's a human being living up to what it means to truly manifest all that God expects of a human being to carry the title of Adam. We're talking about someone that became impure with tsaras, which is one of the, when you look at the various layers of tumah, there's impurity for cockroaches, and then there's impurity for death, which is the worst. There's nida. There's the impurity a woman goes through during her menstrual cycle. There's impurity of a woman who gives birth. There's impurity from male emissions that make you impure. Except grave and death is the same department. Tsaras is one of the strict ones. So the person who has tsaras, you're going to call him Adam. Clearly, he's no Adam. Otherwise, why would he end up with the punishment tsaras? Yeah. So the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad in Likutei Torah, says that actually you're correct. Specifically, a person that is an Adam is the one that gets tzaras, which pretty much means we're all in the clear. We don't have to worry. Because you have to be of a spiritual superior quality to get tzaras. You have to be someone who is internally pure and complete, and the negativity, their bad side, is only on the outside, only on their skin. It's skin deep. It's not deeper than that. So this is a person who internally is doing great, but externally seems to have come in contact, had an association with, or got involved in something that isn't good. It's not a representation of their true inner character. It's an external factor to who they are at their core. You know when a politician gets caught, and they always do. I mean, last week would be a good sign of that. This congressman who got caught with, I would say with his pants down, but it was his pants down many times. But they always say the same thing. It's not who I am. First of all, yes, it is. Of course, it's who you are. Otherwise, it would have not been repetitive. But here we're actually saying that there is a reality of a person who is spiritually complete on the inside, yet on the outside seems to slowly experiencing some degeneration, and we need to catch it in time, and we give them tzaras to catch them before it gets deeper than just their skin. And to understand that, we have to ask another question. And I know what I just said sounds a little nuts, but you'll understand what I mean in just a moment. But to understand that, we have to ask another question. How could we say that tzaras only plagues a spiritually wonderful person? We know that it says in the Gemara in Erechim that tzaras comes as a punishment for Lashon Hara, for speaking negatively about others, speaking bad about others. And speaking bad about others is so bad that we read in the Gemara and we read in the Rambam that when you speak Lashon Hara negatively about another person and you get used to it, meaning it becomes your way of life, it is as if you are a heretic that denies the essence of God. It's considered a supremely bad character trait to speak Lashon Hara. So how is it possible that we just said that the person who speaks Lashon Hara is called Adam because he's spiritually superior and complete on the inside? It seems, if he asked tzaras, he probably spoke a lot of Lashon Hara, and he spoke Lashon Hara. How could we call him complete spiritually? And when I said in the beginning that the Rebbe really delineates something very, very clear and beautiful, I was sitting and preparing for class in the car, and I had this big smile on my face because it really is revolutionary thought. The Rebbe says that there's two types of Lashon Hara speakers. There's the people we are used to, who speak negatively about others, and that is they have negative internal traits, anger, jealousy, temptation, laziness, whatever their inner traits are that are guiding them, they're pretty bad. And because they're bad, they have hatred and jealousy about other people. And so we speak negatively to create harm through rumors, through speech, through gossip towards the person that we are unhappy with. But in that case, it's an internal dilemma, an internal ailment that manifests itself on the outside. It comes from the inside out. You are unhappy, you are miserable, you have negative midos rois, negative traits, and it's expressing itself via the fact that you are speaking Lashon Hara about other people. That's what we usually think of when we think of Lashon Hara. But sometimes, says the Rebbe, people speak Lashon Hara because they're not being focused, they're not paying attention. Just blurts out. They don't mean to harm anyone. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they have negative traits on the inside. They were just in a circumstance where they slipped up and started talking gossip about someone. And here's the problem. They may not mean it on the inside. It may not be a sign of character traits, but what happens if we let them keep gossiping for longer than they need to? Eventually, it will penetrate their inside. So instead of coming from the inside out, it will come from the outside in, and the negative experience that they're doing on the outside will eventually make them have negative traits on the inside. Because the reality is when you do something on the outside enough, it's going to affect you on the inside. Right? That's why the famous teaching in the year 1899. The year 1899, there was a great discourse by the Rebbe Rasha, by the fifth Rebbe, called Ranat. He said it over multiple months. And in that discourse, I still remember I was 17 years old in yeshiva in Montreal when Rabbi Garari, the teacher, taught it to us. And it was fascinating then, and it's fascinating today. There's a famous teacher, it's quoted there. I think it's from a sefer called Reishis Chachma, but it's quoted there. And it says that when you're angry, number one thing you need to do is shut your mouth. Do you ever see what happens when people are angry and they open their mouth? You know how much worse it gets? Think of it on the side of love. If someone loves you and they never tell you, how does it feel? But I always love you. Sit in front of the therapist. But I always loved you. I told you I loved you when I married you. Right? The famous story with the couple that went to the therapist. And the wife said, my husband never says I love you. And the husband, like a chacham, says, I told you I love you under the chuppah. And if anything ever changes, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
That really works great. So just like when you keep your mouth shut when you're angry, if you want to express something positively, even though speech is not the most powerful attribute because it's not your internal stuff, it's just an external garment, but it enhances the love. When you speak romantically and you speak lovingly, it adds love. It's just a fact. So the mouth can either serve as a source of increasing love or increasing hatred. So therefore, we see clearly that the expression on the outside does affect you on the inside. So when you see a guy or when you see a person who is rotted on the inside and that is why they're speaking Lashon Hara, that's already someone that needs a lot of help. And we'll talk about what to do with them. But there's the other person, the Adam, the healthy, spiritual, complete, good person who's having a moment of gossip for one reason or another, but it's very external. And what do we want to do to make sure that it doesn't end up on the inside? You got to stop them in their tracks. So when you learn in the sages, when you read in the Gemara, when you read in the Rambam and all different places about someone who's like denying God's essence, speaking Lashon Hara, that is talking about someone who is malicious. They are malicious. They have an internal rot and they are being malicious to spread rumors about someone, even if those rumors, even if the information is true. I love when people say in America, but it's true. Do you think about what you're doing? I want to tell you something, even this week. So this congressman was caught doing terrible things. Terrible things. I kept thinking to myself all week, the guy has a wife and 3 children. These kids are going to get older one day. In one Google search, do you know the shattering? Now, you could say, the typical person, well, it's the dad's fault. He should have never. Okay. But are you even taking into consideration that there are 3 children that happen to have a dad who's a jerk? But therefore what? Every last piece of dirt just so you can get a news clip? At this point, everybody knows he already resigned from Congress. Why do you need to talk about it? But no, let's find another piece of dirt and another piece of dirt because we need everyone to know. For what? Because you're a bunch of gossipers. You already lost. He was going to be the governor of California. He lost that. He was a congressman for 10 years. He resigned. What do you need it for? Personally, I don't like the guy. He's messed with the Israel. I don't like him. But what's it? What is this? Why is it his kid's fault? So you have people who are rotted. They're rotten at the core. They have disgusting attributes that are unhealthy and unspiritual. So they are allowing the inside to come out, and that's why they're gossiping. And they have malicious intent because that's what they are at their core. Tsaras is not necessarily going to plague them. Actually, it will necessarily not plague them because tsaras cannot heal a rotted person. It can only heal someone that's healable. A person like that needs something much bigger than tsaras to fix them. God needs to beat them a lot harder than just tsaras. So where does tsaras come? The Torah says, Adam. The punishment of tsaras is specifically for someone who speaks Lashon Hara without malintent. They are not trying to hurt someone. They're not rotten at their core. It's just speech. It's just external, but on the skin of their body, the flesh of their body. So what does God do? He gives you tsaras. Now ask yourself, why? If a guy's a good person, we're talking about a good person who happened to speak negatively, why give him tsaras? What happens when you get tsaras? What's the first thing they got to do? Say that again? You got to leave the community. Outside of all three. Huh? Once it's proclaimed, you got to go to all the camps. So who are you going to talk Lashon Hara to over there? Nobody. The goats? You're assuming there was goats there. Wasn't Yemen.
The other ones that are with me.
Wasn't Yemen and Saudi Arabia. It was Israel.
The other ones that are outside the gate with you?
No, very rarely. No. So you're alone. Oh. So what Hashem did to this Adam, to this great spiritual person, he said, I don't want you to, this is not who you are. And God is saying that this is not who you are. I want to save you from turning into something that you're not. And you will turn into something that you're not because gossip and Lashon Hara has the ability to do that to you if you don't stop it in its tracks. So Hashem says, let's get him away from other people. So he'll remember while he's alone over there, hold on, why am I here? Because I got tsaras. Why did I get tsaras? Because I spoke negatively. Oh my gosh, it's really not who I am. So when they come back, the chance of them going back to speaking Lashon Hara, unlike the prison system in America with the highest recidivism rate in the world, it's not going to go back to speaking Lashon Hara. Think of Miriam, Moses' sister. She didn't speak about her brother with malintent. She wasn't looking to hurt him. Quite the contrary, she cared about him. So she got tsaras. So, right, it's one of the reasons it says, and it's beyond tonight's scope of the class, but just throwing it out there. One of the things it says in the Gemara is that Mashiach is going to be a poor man and a Mitzayra. He's going to have tsaras before he reveals himself. Tsaras, why would Mashiach have tsaras? Because Mashiach is a high spiritual caliber. And it only goes to high spiritual caliber people. So it's interesting that if you look in the Rambam himself, Maimonides, you'll see that when he speaks about Lashon Hara in Hilchos Deis, in the beginning of the Rambam, he talks about it as a terrible, how bad it is and how it could affect that you're a total. It's like you denied God in the most negative terms, because who's he talking about in that section? He's talking about the guys that we're used to, the Lashon Hara people that we're used to, the ones that are rotted on the inside. Because you have to ask yourself, what drives a person to spend their whole day talking about other people? Today in America, we have tens of hundreds of thousands of people whose job all day, they get paid to research dirt and talk about other people's lives. Generally, when someone spends their day talking negatively about others, it's not a reflection of the others, it's a reflection of them. What's wrong with your soul? What's wrong with your heart that you think it makes sense to talk the entire day about other people? I don't care what you're talking about. Something's wrong with you. It's a rot on the inside. That person is what the Rambam talks about in the beginning, and that's a person who is just lambasted as a heretic, someone that doesn't understand the foundations of what it means to be a Jew, foundations of what it means to be a human being, That's not who gets tsaras. But when you talk about, what does the Rambam say about tsaras, about Lashon Hara, about speaking negatively in the laws of tsaras? So I'll read to you what he says. At the end of the laws of tsaras, the Rambam says, let me see if I have it here. Instead of translating, I can just read it straight in English. There we go. Yeah. So the Rambam says at the end of the laws of tsaras, it's actually a fascinating ending. So it says like this. The change that affects clothes and houses, which the Torah described with the general term tsaras, is not a natural occurrence. So don't think it's like the medical leprosy. Instead, it is a sign and a wonder prevalent among the Jewish people to warn them against Lashon Hara. Now, who are we warning against? Again, the person who just touched it. Undesirable speech. When a person speaks Lashon Hara, the walls of his house change colors. If he repents, the house will be purified. If, however, he persists in his wickedness until the house is destroyed, the leather implements in his house upon which he sits and lies change colors. If he repents, it'll be purified. If he persists in his wickedness until they were burnt, the clothing he wears changes colors. If he repents, they'll be purified. If he persists in his wickedness until they are burnt, his skin undergoes changes and he develops tsaras. This causes him to be isolated, and for it he is made known that must remain alone. So to answer your point, he does not have any friends to chat with, so that he will not be involved in the talk of the wicked, which is folly and Lashon Hara. Then he says like this. The Torah warns about this. This is all from the Rambam, stating, take care with regard to tsaras, blemish. Remember what God, your God, did to Miriam. Right? So now Miriam is mentioned. Now this is what the Torah is implying. Contemplate what happened to the prophetess Miriam. She spoke against her brother. She was older than he was. She was raised. She raised him, and she had endangered herself to save him from the sea. She did not speak pejoratively of him. She merely earned equating him with the other prophets. She wasn't speaking negative about him. She wasn't degrading him. She just said, maybe he's just like every other prophet because look how he treats his wife, which was again her misunderstanding. And she was immediately punished with tsaras. Certainly an inference can be made with regard to the wicked and foolish men who speak extensively about great wondrous matters. Therefore, a person who seeks to structure his course of conduct should distance himself from their gatherings and from speaking to them so that he will not become caught up in the web of their wickedness and foolishness. This is the path followed by the gathering of wicked fools. In the beginning, they speak excessively about empty matters, about nothing. You ever see people sit around in a bar talking about nothing? You said nothing in an hour and a half. You don't go out of your own mind from wasting your time talking about nothing. Look at her. Look how cute she is. Look at him. He's so handsome. All day, they did the same silly thing. As it says in Ecclesiastes and Koheles, the talk of a fool is characterized by a multitude of words. You want to know who's fool? Blah, 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 blah. That's nothing to say. As a result of this, they come to speak negatively of the righteous. As reflected by the verse in Psalms, may the lying lips be silenced, those who speak falsehood about the righteous men. As a consequence, they will become accustomed to speaking against the prophets and casting aspersions on their words. And then he wraps up the Rambam and he says, in contrast, the speech of proper Jewish people only concerns words of Torah and wisdom. By the way, he says both Torah and wisdom. Because as it says in Malachi, those who fear God conversed, each person with his fellow, and God listened and paid heed. And a book of remembrance was composed before him for those who fear God and contemplate his name. And that's literally how he ends the laws of tsaras. So it's very, very clear. And he's making it very clear that it's not just a punishment. Tsaras is meant to save the person who starts this process of speaking Lashon Hara from getting anywhere worse in their life. Catch it while you can before it gets out of control. There's a syndrome, and we'll end with that. There's a syndrome in spiritual journeys of all people. And you can apply it to diets. You can apply it to any other New Year's resolution that people don't keep. But spiritually in particular, there's this idea of saying, just this one time. I'm just going to do X, Y, and Z just this one time. Every alcoholic I met who went back to drinking, literally I had an alcoholic, someone who struggles with alcohol in Billings, told me about 6 months ago, Rabbi, I can't believe I went back after 19 months of being clean on the wagon, and it all happened from one drink. I said, just this one time. I said, of course it did. That's like me in the pantry. Just this one pretzel. And just that one pretzel, the bag was done, and I felt like a balloon, but it was one pretzel. One pretzel. Now, I don't have the alcohol struggle, so I could have a little l'chaim and move on. I don't like alcohol, but I like sushi. Spiritually, I'm just going to miss the Omer one night. I'm just going to skip this one Jewish fast day. I'm just going to say Yom Tov is Pesach is 7 days. Just this one time. I'm just going to sneak peek on my phone on Shabbos one time. We all know, if we're being honest, that's not a slippery slope. It's immediate. The ball drops and we don't know how to climb back on. So this idea, just this one time, is the source of so much of people's spiritual challenges. Because we'd like to convince ourselves that the one time is just one time, but it never is. And the Rambam is saying, and the Torah is saying, and Moses was saying that, listen, we're not going to let the Adam fall off the wagon. They lived such a pious, complete, beautiful spiritual life. They're not perfect, but they live a good life. They're doing well. But somehow right now they just dropped the ball. And if we don't kick them the hell out and give them a wake-up call by making them a mitzvah, putting them outside where there's no one else to talk to with their gossip, they will continue because gossip is juicy. Who doesn't like gossip? And if gossip didn't sell, the media would shut down tomorrow. The reason they're making trillions of dollars is because gossip sells. If I came to someone in the middle of the Amida, if I walked up to someone in Shul in the middle of the Amida and whispered in their ear and said, did you hear what happened to Chaim and Chavi last night? What are the chances that they're not going to turn their head with their eyes getting wide, like, okay, spill the beans? And then if you ruin it by saying they had Shabbos dinner, that's what they did last night, you'll make them feel terrible because they were waiting for the juice. There was no juice. They need some gossip. Right? And by the way, the people that are honest will tell you they love gossip, which is a good thing to admit, because at least you know what to stay away from. People will tell you, oh, I would never speak gossip. You're a liar. Not only are you a gossiper, you're a liar. So now it's two biblical prohibitions. You're not saying the truth. It's human nature to hear garbage about other people, and for whatever reason, love it. And that's why it's part of Avodah, it's part of our service of Hashem, to pause and say, do I really want that in my life? And what am I gaining from it? What am I gaining from hearing that information? How's that benefiting me in any way? Did you hear that so-and-so did so-and-so 27 and a half years ago when he was in college? Okay, he was in college 27 years ago. 27 years have passed. Why are you bringing up some silly thing they did in college? Well, I don't think that they have the character needed to be really. Because 27 years ago, they did something stupid. If you didn't let people move on in life by being with things they did when they were in college and stupid, nobody would ever make it anywhere. They're in the appropriate age to be stupid, but you gossiping about it doesn't do anything for anyone. It's pure gossip. Digging up stories that destroy people's happy marriages, that are destroyed because you decided to bring something up that one spouse didn't know about the other, and now they're fuming and they didn't know about it. So you just created a rift between a husband and a wife. For what? So you can get a 5 seconds of fame? That is the key. It's easy to get caught up in the web of gossip and Lashon Hara. And God wants us to remember that by telling us that it's Adam, it's the good people that get caught up. The bad people have to deal with, chances are they're going to have worse punishments than Tsaras. Tsaras is not just a punishment, it's a wake-up call. And you can't give a wake-up call to someone that's not capable of waking up. So it's not going to the wicked people that are rotten on the inside. It's going to people that are pure on the inside, that are so easily capable of falling down the rabbit hole. And we want to protect them and help them before they go there by making sure they don't live with this false idea of just this one time. Because just this one time can be the beginning and the end of the just one drink mentality that ends you up crashed into the wall of an underpass trying to figure out how it happened. You know how it happened? Just one drink. Losing your marriage is just one night. It was just one time. The pornography business wouldn't be $1 trillion business if it was just one time that you needed the addiction. The cigarette business wouldn't be there. Right? Mr. Smirnov, whoever owns the alcohol companies, wouldn't be billionaires if it was just one drink. Huh? One l'chaim. I tell you who doesn't make money off of me? The alcohol companies. You know who does? The sushi companies. So I'm not saying there aren't levels. There are different types of vices. Not all vices are the same. No, it's a falsehood. Not all vices are the same. But the idea that just one time, that is a universal issue that people struggle with. And if we can catch ourselves before we get to the just one time, we have made ourselves and the world around us and our families and our communities a healthier place, a more spiritual place, and a better place where we can function as people without having to talk about other people's lives, which are not relevant to you. Have a wonderful evening. We will not have class next week. Actually, yeah, no, we're not going to have class next week. I'm in New York. I was just trying to think if I could pull it off. I'm taking Manny to get his aliyah in the Rebbe's room, but no, ain't going to happen. You'll have to suffer. But if I do decide to somehow 9 p.m. New York time that I'm available, maybe I'll do it on Zoom. We'll see. Between now and next week, a lot of things can happen. Sei gesund. Have a great evening. We'll see you back here soon. Great to see everyone.